Hey guys, what's up? This is Nick with Play/Game, coming to you the day after the premiere of the Orville, Seth MacFarlane's new show. So what I wanted to do today was I wanted to actually discuss my thoughts on the premiere of the Orville and what I overall thought of the show. Now, as you can see, it's just going to be my splash page at the moment. I still don't have a camera. And I'm not going to throw up any graphics or anything like that for the most part. It's just going to be me talking about it, okay? So, first off, what is the Orville? So, as I said, Seth MacFarlane's new show. Now, what the Orville focuses on is a crew of people, just like it would in, say, Star Trek, of a starship going through these different situations, dealing with problems, and also creates some really unique, or rather really interesting characters in the whole thing. So in the first episode, without telling too much, basically they are tasked, or rather the new captain gets his ship. They are tasked with going off to a planet to deliver supplies, but something happens, and of course the ship and crew get into some sort of danger, right, or kerfuffle, whatever you want to call it, right? And they have to react to that situation and get out of it in one piece, right? Now, I'm just going to say right off the bat, if you have not seen the premiere of this show, go and watch it. Like, honestly, just go watch it right now. Because, personally, I loved the premiere. This show brought back so many memories of Star Trek to me, because a lot of the things in the show you could see parallels or influence from Star Trek coming into the show. Okay, so for example, the crew itself is inspired a little bit by Star Trek. So the helmsman, for example, is a kind of misfit, right? He was in trouble with the Planetary Union, as they call it in this one, which would kind of be like Starfleet, right? He was in trouble for doing something stupid, and he was basically grounded, right? He gets pulled out of that grounding by the captain of the ship because of the fact that he is one of the best pilots in the Union. I believe it was called the Planetary Union anyways. It just had a symbol in behind one of the admirals during the show that said the Planetary Union. I believe that's what it said. But anyways, so he's in trouble. He gets pulled out by that captain because he's the best, and he wants the best, right? And he's also a friend. Now that draws some parallels to Star Trek Voyager's Lieutenant Tom Paris, right? Because Tom Paris was pulled out by Captain Janeway or pulled back into duty, by Captain Janeway, because he made a mistake in his past that basically grounded him from flying a starship. But he was the best, and she knew that, and she wanted that best on her ship. Pulled that guy out, right? And now you have Lieutenant Paris flying that ship. So we have a Lieutenant Paris in the Orville. We also have a Commander Data, or in a way, a Commander Data, right? So there's another race of aliens in this show, which are they didn't really say, as far as I remember, if they're actual androids, but they look like they're androids. Their suit looks like they're an android, and he's the only one of his kind to be actually in the Union, right? And he's on the Orville, and he's there because he's interested in human beings, in our mannerisms and our culture, and he's very much like Data in the fact that something will happen. For example, something in this show happens, somebody's playing with sarcasm, right? They say something sarcastically, and he turns around and he goes, well, you just said that, this is gonna be fun or whatever, right? But it sounds like it's not, so what's going on, right? And the crew had to explain that was sarcasm, a human a human trait, right? Something humans would say when they really think the opposite. So there's your Commander Data, right? And then you have kind of a Worf-like character. Now, we didn't see him in combat or anything like that, but he kind of has this air of honor about him. Like, things he has to do are he, he feels like if he doesn't do them well, he kind of disgraced or he let down the people in his crew, because something does happen in the show, and the captain comes to him, and he goes to the captain and said, I'm sorry, I failed you, right? But the captain goes, no, you really didn't. But to that character, he had failed him because he had not done something. He had not done that thing without incurring some damage, right, or something, right? But overall, he just reminds me a lot of, say, a Worf. He's kind of gruff, but yet calm, and he's kind of he's got that air of a warrior race, so to speak, with him, right? So the crew itself is kind of takes nods from previous Star Treks, right? Now, some of you may disagree with me on this. If you see any parallels to anybody else, please comment below. I'm really interested in seeing what you guys, or reading what you guys thought about this sort of thing, right? Secondly, the actual show's visuals are spot on. Like, they did a really good job on the creation of the races, the costumes, the ship, the overall atmosphere, right? It's just awesome, right? They did a great job. They took time and care and put that into their show, right? And now let's talk about the other one where I noticed right away. Even my wife noticed. She looked over me and said, "Is that Star Trek?" The music. Oh my God! Like, they're pulling out of the dock, right? Out of space dock with the ship, right? They're on their way for the first time. And you can hear the background music, right? And the score going on for it. And you can really hear influences of other Star Trek shows. So of Next Generation especially, I heard a lot of influence from the Next Generation's opening score to the show itself. And a little bit of, even dare say, DS9 in there, just a little bit. But she looked over at me and went, "Is that Star Trek?" And I went, "Yeah, I mean, slightly different, of course, enough to be its own thing, but you could really see where they were drawing that inspiration from, or really hear, can't really see music, right? You can really hear where they're drawing that inspiration from overall. Now, how did the show feel overall? I felt the show was very good. So, again, I mean, I'm drawing a lot of parallels from Star Trek and comparing it a lot to that, because the show is kind of it kind of holds itself just like Star Trek would. Like, this episode was just like watching an episode of Star Trek in the way that it was laid out, in the way that it was the way things happened within the show. It reminded me a lot of it. And that's a very good thing, because I love Star Trek, okay? But so the way it was laid out was really, really good. The way the show felt was really good. And it was very different from initially what I thought it would be. So I was very excited for this show. I thought, by watching the trailer, it was going to be more like a laugh out loud, like really funny show, that they were going to really try and put in some humor to the show, right? But the thing is, it wasn't extremely funny, but it wasn't dull. It landed right in between. It landed at the perfect kind of symphony of both together, right? So unlike Star Trek, which to me has always been a really, really serious show, right? they deal with very, very serious issues, very serious problems, right? But not only that, the way the show felt, everything was kind of more serious. It wasn't a show that you would be laughing at a lot, because there wasn't a lot of humor in it, but there was a lot of it made you think about things a lot, or at least it did me. It made me think. It impacted my life a lot, right? So it gave me this sense of discovery and wonder for what's out there in the universe that we haven't seen. And I'm not saying that the Orville won't do that, but it's not near as serious as Star Trek was. Some of you who have watched Star Trek before will get it. What I mean by this, right? It's really hard to explain for me with about how it was that way, but there was always this seriousness to it. The Orville, on the other hand, is not really serious, but it's not really extremely funny like you'd find a Family Guy or something like that, right? Like Family Guy is supposed to be this whole extremely funny thing, right? It's mostly humor and jokes and things like that. The Orville seems to play it serious when it needs to, but inject a little bit of humor in to the show to make it lighter, and probably a little bit. I'm not even sure if some people who have watched Star Trek or not would agree with me on this, but maybe a little bit easier to digest for folks who may have not been into Star Trek and its serious tone, right? I believe that it's going to be a really, really good show. Like the first episode, I've watched it and I went, I want more, because it draws off of something I love, which is Star Trek, but it is not Star Trek. It's enough to stand on its own and be its own show. It's not Star Trek, right? But it obviously takes from it and uses some of it to make that show recognizable to those who would know Star Trek, but yet easily digestible, so to speak, for the people who may not, by making that show a little bit lighter, a little bit less serious, throwing in a little bit more jokes, stuff like that. Now, the show was not dull, right? And I chuckled at times, but even though it seemed to be positioned as a comedy, so to speak, it's not fully to that side of the spectrum. It kind of lands in between serious and comedy. Just enough comedy to make it light, but enough seriousness to make the show seem like they were at least in a little bit of danger. Although at the end, some of the maneuvers they were pulling off of the ship was kind of weird, and I was going, yeah, no, but I mean, it's TV. They're gonna do that. So, anyways, I've kind of rambled on and on about why I think this show is awesome. So, I personally, to me, it's awesome, right? And I can't wait to watch more. Now, tell me what you guys think. I mean, let me know in the comments below what you thought of the Orville, and if you saw any parallels to Star Trek, or any inspirations from Star Trek that it seems like they took to make this show interesting, right? Or to do this nod to the kind of something that started the genre almost, right? Or at least something that is very dear to the hearts of many people, such as myself, because it's changed lives. It's certainly impacted who I am. So I'm glad that they took from that medium and made a show that can stand on its own while still having the inspiration from something great like that. So let me know what you think below. I'm going to stop rambling now about this. Go watch The Orville. I'm very excited for next week, for watching that next episode. And yeah, tell me what you think. So this is Nick with Play Slash Game, and once again, I will see you guys on the next video.